Hello and welcome to Friends in Faith. Christmas is behind us now. New Year's has come and gone, and we're in 2024. And this year we're starting a 10-week series on the Ten Commandments. Now, why the Ten Commandments this year? I think that almost everyone can name some of the Ten Commandments. I know very few people who can name all 10 in order. And yet, everybody knows to call it God's laws. It's not something that we should know. So why are we doing this then? Human nature, fallen human nature, is not disposed to doing good. It happens regularly that temptation overcomes our consciences. And so we fall one way or another, big things, little things, but we fall daily and have to get back up. We fall as individuals, we fall as a society, we fall as a culture. One of our big problems as our society is preoccupied with making people smart or making people rich or saying, I want to make people happy. But we are not preoccupied with making people good. And that's the goal of the Ten Commandments, to make us good. God gave these to us not because God needs it, but because we need it. People often like to call it God's law, and rightly so. But somehow this is understood backwards. The law wasn't put up here and we were created to serve the law. We were put up here and God created the law to serve us, to give us the means to make a good life, a happy life that is safe for everyone. I talk to teenagers or kids sometimes and I ask them, do you like roller coasters? Yeah. Why do you like roller coasters? They're fast. They make me feel free. They make you feel free. Are you kidding me? That's the time when you can move the least because they put the bar down over you and you can't move at all. But if they don't do that, you can't enjoy the roller coaster. You can't enjoy the speed of it. If you want to find out what life is like without God's law, get on the roller coaster and don't put the safety stuff on. And go down the first big dip and see what happens to you. The safety things make it possible for you to enjoy it to its fullest. And that's what God's law is about. So imagine a world if people followed the commandments. Imagine a world where there was no war. A world where there was no stealing, no cheating. You could walk down the street at night and know you were safe. You didn't have to lock the doors to your house. You didn't have to worry about people taking things from you. You knew that people cared. Imagine a world that followed God's law, the Ten Commandments, and how wonderful it could be. And that's what the commandments offer us. Now, as we're going through this, you're going to notice one thing. The numbering of the commandments in the Jewish faith and in the Christian faith are a little bit different. Our first commandment that we're going to talk about in just a minute, I am the Lord your God, you shall not have strange gods before me. That's number one for us. In the Jewish faith, that is divided up into two. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of slavery in Egypt. 1, you shall have no other gods but me. Number 2. But to end up with 10, for we in 9 and 10, we have 9, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, and 10, you shall not covet your neighbor's goods. In the Jewish faith, those are combined into number 10. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or your neighbor's goods. Commandments are the same, they're just numbered for us slightly differently. So if you run into that, don't worry about it. It's such a minor point. Now, one of the things to remember that's important is you have to recognize that if there is any objective right and wrong, any objective law of what we're supposed to do, it has to come from outside of us. Specifically, it has to come from God. If it doesn't come from God, then it's not objective, it's purely subjective. Andrew's sitting here filming us today. Andrew says, it would be wrong if you slapped me. And I say, no, it'd be right if I slapped you. Why is he right and I'm wrong? Somebody, oh, the common good, and so forth. Well, why should I worry about the common good if it's just subjective? Why shouldn't I worry about only what's good about me or my family? So when it gets down to, if it doesn't come from outside, if it doesn't come from God, then what we run into is opinions. One person says one thing, somebody else says the opposite. Who's to decide who's right or who's wrong? Somebody says, oh, I get my morality from my heart. Well, if I get it from my heart, mine might be different from yours. So we end up in a mess. But the truth is that right and wrong, objective right and wrong, does come from God. And he gives it to us in the commandments and what we learn in the Bible. So today, we're talking about the first commandment. I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods before me. And the first commandment establishes what is the fundamental truth of our life, that there is only one God. The pagan gods in the Old Testament times had lots of things. And even you hear about it today, the god of this tree, and the god of this, and the god of that, and the god of fertility. The Romans had multiple gods. And the Greeks Zeus, and the Romans Jupiter, and the Norse had Odin and Thor and all the Marvel heroes that we still hear of today. But the Ten Commandments and the Jews established monotheism in the world. There was only one God, and he is the one we listen to. Even this day, though, even though we don't follow those old pagan gods, we still have lots of other gods. And how do you define what another God is? Anything we put before God. If you can't come to church because, oh, it's football season, football has just become your God. If you can't worship God because, oh, I'd rather go to the party, well, the party has become your God. If you say, I don't like what the church says because they ask for money, well, money's become your God. Not saying you have to give it to the church, but you make it more important than people. And it goes on and on. We make gods out of a lot of things, and that would be the definition. If you put it ahead of the one true God, then that has become your God. So we have lots of false gods in this culture. And the one thing that you can depend on 100% of the time, where false gods come into life, evil shortly follows after. You can observe it, you can look at it, you can think about it, but it's just a rule of life. From the one true God comes goodness and love and all the good virtues. And from the false gods comes all the things that make life lousy sometimes. So we're encouraging you as we follow this series of the Ten Commandments, and pay attention to the commandments. Know them in order, and understand they're given to us to make life good for us as a community, as a world, as a people, and to put us in union with each other and with our God. Amen.